Who was the special guest?
Am I allowed to disclose that, Dave?
Sure, I don't think it matters.
The great Desmond Howard just spoke to the team, which is it's always great to have him around, and great message to the guys.
What part of it?
No, that was one question. Go ahead.
Keep going, Tony.
Anything that you can share?
Sure. Just a great message about your mindset and how that mindset and your perception shapes your play on the field and in your performance in the rest of your life. And are you looking at things as half empty versus half full? And how just that simple change can change how you are as a player, change how a team is. And had a great question and answer session, and that was just, it's like I said, always awesome to have him around, and just embodies everything that a Michigan man is.
All right, Chris, we'll let you ask a
I
question.
have one question in 4 parts. Can you just talk about the battles at left tackle and right guard, and who's competing there, and who's kind of stepping up?
Sure. So we always like to kind of think of it, it's like, it's a true meritocracy, right? Every, until the first game, until we get out there, every job is up for grabs, and that competition is healthy. Left tackle, Link's been there, played well in the bowl game, and he's done a great job of elevating his play. We really kind of challenged him to take that next step, to go from a guy who it's all right, you're kind of feeling your way through your first season, getting used to it, to go be the tackle you're capable of being. And I've been really, really impressed with the steps he's taken this offseason to do that. He's having a really, really good camp. Obviously, Andrew Babalola is competing there as well. And then Blake Frazier has gotten himself back healthy, and he's done a remarkable job for a guy who was out for spring, of getting himself back in the mix there. So I think that's the one thing, and I want to brag on my guys for a little, if you'll let me. We are much deeper than we were last year. And it's a credit to those guys and the investment they made in themselves, not just individually, but getting closer and tighter as a unit, that we feel like we were not just, I think, going to be better, but deeper than we were a year ago.
And then I'd asked about right guard as well.
Sure. So right guard, we've really had 4 guys kind of mixing in there. Nate Afobe has done a great job of making that next step from where he was kind of last year to being a guy who's put himself in the mix to be the guy. Obviously Lawrence Attar, who transferred in from Ferris State. We've been mixing Jake Winera there some as well as Brady Norton. So, another good kind of competition. And again, it's a credit to those guys where it's not a feeling of, oh shoot, like we're gonna have to play one of these guys eventually. More of, all right, hey, we feel like all 4 of these guys are playing well enough that we can win. Who's gonna be the best one? And I feel like it's the same way at left tackle. Like I said, Link's elevated his game tremendously, and at the same time, to have 2 younger guys who are still able to push him and make him better every single day has been awesome. No different than just having those bodies to even push a guy like Andrew Sprague at right tackle. It brings out the best in everyone when you have that competition in the room. And the cool thing has been, again, just a credit to those guys in the room, how close they've gotten, that you can have those competitions without it being malicious or nefarious. They all really genuinely want what's best for one another.
Left there, Isaiah.
Jim Harbaugh used to talk about how guys, you saw the biggest jump and lights turned on from either game 1 to game 2 or even year 1 to year 2. Could the same be said at all with coaching? Is there a learning curve that you kind of, okay, now I get this that maybe I didn't when it comes to coaching the offensive line?
Sure. I think there's definitely merit to that, and I think it's less so anything I've done, and more so just a credit to those guys and them stepping up and meeting the opportunity of, hey, we realized that what we weren't good enough last year as a team, and as the offense line, you have to lead the team, right? That's the expectation here. That's the way it's been here. Every great Michigan team, the offense line's led the team. That's how it has to be. And so, embracing that hey, you can view it as a challenge and kind of shy away from it, or you can view it as an opportunity. And again, I'll brag on those guys, and they've really have embraced that. And I'm excited to see them continue to do that work, because obviously, we're nowhere near where we need to be yet, but the jump they've made has been tremendous.
On the left there, Anthony.
Sean has talked about emphasizing the physicality for you guys this year. I mean, how has that manifested itself so far in camp?
Yeah, I think it's it kind of goes back to what I was just talking about. When you think of Michigan football, you think of that brand of football. Physicality, and it's starting up front with the run game, and it goes back to the offense line having to lead the team. We have to be able to run the football here. And there were times when we did that last year, but it wasn't consistent enough. That's on all of us, myself included in that unit. That hey, we gotta take that pride and we gotta take that step that the team can rely on us. That when it's a tough game or it's a close game, we're gonna be able to be physical, we're gonna be able to run the football. So again, it's a credit to those guys and the approach they've taken so far, and it's shown up in camp so far, but it's got to continue to show up.
On the right here, Ryan.
First time in a long time that you guys won't have back-to-back home games during the season. I guess what challenges do you foresee that maybe presenting, and how do you kind of combat that?
I mean, just from a purely practical, logistical standpoint, obviously you got to prepare, be ready for silent count, just like you are anytime you're going to play at a road environment that can get a little loud. But again, I think it goes back to it's all about that mindset, and cheap tie into what Desmond was just talking about. You can look at that as a challenge, or you can look at it as an opportunity. An opportunity to go out and do something that no Michigan team's done before, right? And go undefeated, go win national championship without having back-to-back home games. So again, I think it's been presenting that to the guys, and the guys, to their credit, having that mindset of it may not be easy, but it's something we can deal with, something we look forward to.
And looking a little bit further down the road, what are your thoughts on potentially coaching and playing in Germany, like the team playing in Germany?
Shoot, I'm sure it'll be exciting, but just like you said, focused on this, this day, this practice. That'll be something to look forward to once we get there next year.
Aaron.
Lawrence Qatar, I don't believe you had him in the spring. How do you see them make the jump from the Division II level to this level?
Sure. I mean, it's like anything. I'm sure there's been an adjustment, but the thing that I love about Lawrence, and part of the reason why we were so happy to get him as a transfer is there's a lot to be said for just someone who's won, and for the fact that he's been a part of 3 national championships, and yes, it was on the Division II level, but at the end of the day, like, you're either a winner or you're not, and there's something said for that coming from a culture that Coach Anise has there at Ferris State, where they're tough, gritty, hard-nosed individuals, and that's what we are. That's what we aspire to be every single day. So, it says a lot. What's up, Dan?
You mentioned also the depth of the offensive line has improved. I have to imagine that you want to find a starting 5 sooner rather than later for continuity's sake. Is that true?
Sure. So it's always a balance, because there's 2 ways you can look at it. So, hey, I want to get the starting 5 set the first day of camp, so those guys have 4 weeks to just work only with each other. But then the flip side of that is, you should want, my opinion, to have the depth where, we got 4 guys who are genuinely pushing at the right guard position and genuinely competing. And as opposed to, it's going to be this guy by default because we don't feel like we have enough. And especially at a position like the offensive line, we're going to start 5 guys. You're going to start a bunch of different combinations. And I don't remember off the top of my head, we probably started 5 different combinations last year because of injuries or guys, whatever it may be. So I tend to look at that as the other side of it, that, hey, sure, you got to get those combinations set at some point before the game, but making sure that the first time that Crip has to work with Lawrence or has to work with Nate or have to work with Jake or Brady or whoever it is the fourth quarter at Norman because someone's shoe came undone or their helmet popped off. That's not really great either. So it's a balance of finding the right depth, the right guys, and then letting them get comfortable.
Sam. John.
I know we asked you in the spring, but can you give us an update or if you learned anything about working with Chip Lindsey?
Sure. He's been great. He's been awesome. And again, I think the coolest thing for us has been, coming from a very different kind of style of not just offense but team, and obviously he's been immensely successful everywhere he's been, as an offense coordinator, and then offensively when he was a head coach, and he's made us better, not just by bringing in new plays, new ideas, new ways to think about things, but also even just the existing stuff of, hey, how can we make this better? Or, hey, do we, is this perfect? And shoot, it may be what we want to do, and we may not touch it. But just the kind of confidence yet lack of ego that he's had has been awesome, and it's been great for us as a staff, and I think the players really feed off of his energy and that feeling from him.
In the back, Alejandro.
Grant, you played significant snaps as a freshman, including a start. What are some lessons from that you can incorporate with a guy like Papalola who's pushing to start as a freshman?
Sure. I mean, he's definitely more talented than I am. So he's on the field portion. He's got me beat. But I think the thing, not just for him, but even a guy like Andrew Sprague, who obviously if we played a game right now would be our starting right tackle. Who's still a young guy, right? I know and sometimes I catch myself because he started the bowl games. You think it's all right. He's this old vet. He's a young kid too. He started one game in his career, right? Of just them having that confidence. And I think maybe the best example is, in the Alabama game and probably like second quarter, I looked at Sprague in a huddle. I said, "Hey, it's just football, right?" He goes, "Just football." And just reminding them that they're here for a reason. They put in the work, they put in the effort, and they're talented enough. And just having that confidence, I think that's one thing. As a room, the guys and myself, we've done a better job this year, just having that confidence. I think there were times last year where all of a sudden you're not meeting those expectations that you had, and it can kind of snowball on you. As opposed to having that confidence, having that swagger, while also understanding it's going to take hard work.
All the way in the back right, Doug.
You said earlier that last year wasn't what you wanted it to be, but late in games you have to be tight game, close game, you have to run the football. Did you see little signs of that at the end of the Ohio State game and the end of the Alabama game where you didn't put it in the end zone, but you got big field goals? Did you see examples of that starting to come out?
It definitely did. I think it was probably that Northwestern game when it really kind of felt the energy, the confidence of the team and of the offensive line specifically start to shift. And I think we put a big emphasis kind of in that week leading up to that, and Coach Moore did, of just going out and playing confident and playing physical and all the stuff that has built this, or this program's been built on. And I think the guys did a great job of meeting that challenge and just playing free and playing confident. And to your point, I think that did show up, down the stretch. Obviously, the Ohio State game wasn't some crazy, high-scoring, 50-point game, but most times that game's not. I think there's the stat that last 24 years or 23 years, the teams that has won the rushing battle has won that game. And I think that says a lot about who we are as a program. That if we can run the ball up front and we can stop the run on defense, we're going to be in a good position.
I'm sorry, Dave, breaking the rule, but is there a player or two from the Ohio State or Bama game that you can think of? That's what you're talking about?
I don't know. It's hard to pinpoint any one. I mean, it was, and we were talking about this with the team the other day. It was a different game than 22. 22, you kind of point to the two big runs that everyone kind of thinks of in the game, and 23, you kind of think to Rod's interception, whereas 24 is just a different game. It felt like a lot more kind of body blows and body blows and body blows, and just chipping away, and then to get ourselves in that final drive to kind of get in position for the field goal.
Angelique.
Grant, what do you think is the most important trait for a left tackle?
Ooh, confidence. And I say that, and I said this to the room the other day. Playing tackle, much like playing corner, is a very, very unique thing, even in the sport of football. And the example I gave those guys was, everyone thinks about, or not everyone, but you think about hitting in baseball, right? If you succeed 3 out of the 10 times you're up at the plate in baseball, your entire career, you're a Hall of Famer, right? If you don't succeed 3 out of 10 times you're a left tackle, you're not making it out of the first quarter without being benched. So having that confidence and not kind of chasing that last rep or chasing that last set, as we would say, it's tough, and it's a tough thing to do, and it's something that I think, truthfully, to brag on him, the most impressive thing Link has done this year and this offseason has been that. And it's not easy to do, especially when you're a young tackle, because it's tough. Especially there were times in games last year where it was, we were down, that Texas game, feels like you're in 2 minutes, kind of the whole second half. That's tough. That's tough for any offensive lineman, especially a guy who's starting a second game overall. So to develop that confidence, that kind of swagger, that doesn't matter how good this guy is or what happened last play, I'm good enough to do this. I have that confidence to do this. I'm going to do this. And having that belief in yourself, it's not easy to do, but I think that's the most important thing as a tackle.
And also, I was just wondering, how often do you work on silent count?
It's something we work throughout spring, work throughout summer, work throughout fall camp. So you mix it in, and it's one of those things you try to keep it ready so that you don't have to get ready when it's time to use it. Just as last year, always kind of. So when we got to Ohio State week and We just did some in Washington. It wasn't the first time we were doing it.
Okay, I got a couple more people here. We'll wait. Charles?
Yeah, what have you learned working with Juan, and what's that collaboration process like?
Sure. I mean, I think, anytime, you're able to get someone with that kind of background, it's awesome to be able to bounce ideas off of them and just hear the way they do things. And not just Juan, but I'm very fortunate. I always say I'm the most blessed offensive line coach in America, not just to have an incredible group of players, but incredible support staff. John Marukian, Nick Gilbert, obviously Juan, Coach Moore, in the past, Brett Ingles. There's a lot of great offensive line coaches in our building who I can bounce ideas off, or we can just talk through and talk through different things, how we see things. And it's also awesome, like during a practice, now that analysts can coach. If there's something that happens on a play, but shoot, we're on the next rep. John can grab one of those guys, or Nick Gilbert can grab one of those guys, or Juan can grab one of those guys. So very, very fortunate to kind of have that team to help our players.
All right, Zach.
Gio just said that he was very impressed by the intelligence that Balboa came in with. Can you speak to that?
Yeah, he's an incredibly smart guy. Not just school-wise, but football IQ-wise, which seems like you kind of go hand in hand, but definitely not so. He's 10 times smarter than I was football IQ-wise, especially that early in his career. And it's a credit to him, that how much he cares about it, how much he invests in it. But that's one of kind of his best attributes, obviously, in addition to being very physically gifted.
Okay, that's one more. He also mentioned just about how last year, after many years of a lot of the same guys playing, it kind of felt like it took a while to get into a groove, whereas this year it's a lot more confidence. You mentioned, especially at left tackle, the confidence. Can you speak on how you feel like this group has overall just been more confident?
They're closer, and that was one of the things, kind of doing, looking internally, talking with the guys, talking with Coach Moore, kind of all throughout last year of, right, kind of what was the missing piece, right? What was the reason we didn't click? What was the reason we didn't, fire early in the season on all cylinders? And why did it take us so long to kind of get going and feel like we were at the place we felt like we were at the end of the year? And it really came down to, I think, the confidence element of it and the closeness. I think we're a much closer group this year, not just on the field, but also off the field. And the guys are playing with confidence, which again, at that position is so critical. And it starts in practice, like having the confidence that we're going to face the best defense line in the country every single day. Like there are going to be times they're going to beat us. That's what good teams have, right? They have good back and forth when you're going against two edges who I think are first-round picks, and a whole D-line on the inside that guys are going to have a shot to go play in the NFL and have great careers. But understand that, hey, I'm not going to shy away from that challenge. If I lose a rep, cool, I'm back in the next one. I'm going to get this next rep. And I think we're playing with that this year in a way that I didn't do enough job of fostering and creating last year.
All right, I can only go with one more question. Maybe I'll bring in Lou, but I'm going to pick John since he hasn't asked one yet.
Across the line of scrimmage, kind of bouncing off what you just said, is there a guy or two who is shaping up to be the biggest headache for your guys to handle and presumably for other teams?
I think those two edges, or there's more than two edges, but TJ and Derek are great players. And I think you kind of started to see it in the Bama game. Not that they weren't having great seasons beforehand, but I think with Josiah not playing, it really kind of was able to start to see that the spotlight, the highlight of them. And there's the clip I'm thinking of in my mind and visualizing in my mind is when it's one of the early third downs and they just condense the pocket, two speed to power rushes, one on obviously the two talented tackles from Bama, and they walk them back into Milrow and get the sack, and that was such a big boost for not just the defense but us on offense too. And it's funny, it's nice to be able to see that, and all right, it's what we're facing every day in practice. And it's a great challenge for us, and it makes our guys better that, hey, you get into games, and yeah, you may see other talented rushers, you may see other talented defensive linemen, other stout guys on the inside, but shoot, there's not going to be someone who's better than Rayshon Benny, or there's not going to be someone who's got a better speed to power rush than TJ, or who can play the run and rush the passer like Derek can. You go down the list and down the list and down the list. It makes us better, and I think it does. It helps create that confidence. When you approach it, when you visualize it, and you think of it in that way, that hey, I'm going to go against the best in the country every single day in practice, and I'm going to get beat once or twice, but I'm going to get mine too. It gives you that confidence, that swagger that both sides of the offense and defense line need to have.